They told you not to believe your eyes and ears.
And when you see that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not.
No,
they're
look,
not.
No, you have got to take... No, look, I get this is...
North of 90% of them are adult men.
Let me be... No.
Well, that's Darren Jones, their Chief Secretary to the Treasury. We have the facts, Darren. I have the numbers. Let's finally put that spout of gaslighting to rest, because I'm going to smash that narrative for good right now. Of the 38,023 illegal migrants that crossed the Channel in the year ending March, 87% were indeed male, with only 13% female. So, simply put, 9 out of 10 illegal migrants are men. We now also know the largest group entering the UK, of course, Afghanistanis, followed by Syrians, Eritreans and Iranians. And that should be concerning, given that data showing sexual offences in London by ethnicity demonstrate that Afghanistanis are over 1,000% more likely to commit sex crimes than a British person, and Eritreans, the next on that list, are 911% more likely to commit such crimes. With this all in mind, is it quite fair for Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, to have said he is fearful for the safety of his 3 little girls living in the same neighbourhood as illegal migrants? Well, if you listen to the BBC, they said it was xenophobia.
These words echo a fear many have absorbed. Fear of the stranger. The technical name for this is xenophobia.
My panel's raring to go, where the BBC has now apologised and edited the clip, but only after considerable public backlash. You can throw around phobias and isms and try to gaslight people all you like. It doesn't change the reality, though, does it? That time and time again, the data proves this ongoing experiment with open borders is putting young girls and women at a severely higher risk of crimes like rape. Dismissing these concerns as prejudice doesn't make them disappear. It only serves to pander to fantasy and shun the reality faced by communities struggling to deal with the consequences. The liberal elite, insulated in their affluent, leafy suburbs and multi-million-pound homes, don't bear the brunt of this unending experiment. They can and do, as you know, downplay the risks, accusing sceptics and real people suffering of manufacturing a crisis while ignoring the lived experiences of ordinary British people. But the numbers don't bend to that narrative, do they? They don't lie. When they claim there is no crisis, remember, the data speaks for itself, and it's time to stop gaslighting the public with tired accusations of phobia and racism, the same drool that has decimated public trust in politicians and the mainstream media. The truth is in the figures. The truth is with those living with the crisis, and now both are commanding the attention of the British public. Well, as ever, let me know what you think. I'm going to read some of your comments out. gbnews.com/yoursay. As you know, I love to read out your comments, but I want to get the thoughts of my panel.
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying. Data brokers often target vulnerable people with high-interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keeps sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
Historian and author Dr. Tessa Dunlop and journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. Linda, I'll start with you. The data is quite stark. We draw that comparison for a reason, because I think people need to know. Many people know this data now, but more people do need to become aware of it. And I think when you look up and down the country, you see the protests that are erupting. You see Keir Starmer before last year, when the awful riots took place, without calling people far right. But we don't call out the far left and other groups, do we, when there's genuine protests in local areas. Should people... And is Robert Jenrick right to say he's fearful for his kids living in areas where illegal migrants are?
It's his prerogative to be fearful of what he wants to be fearful about when it comes to his own family. You see, I think Darren Jones is so misguided, because you've got the figures, you've told the viewer about all the figures now, but actually we only needed to look with our own eyes. If every day you can see the boats coming ashore and you can see it's 95% men on board the boats, then you don't need necessarily the facts and the figures. They are interesting, but we know that most of the people on board those boats are men. And the reason is that the crossings are so dangerous, most women would find it terribly difficult in terms of physical strength to survive, let alone their babies. That is why you get such distressing scenes where babies are sometimes on board and sometimes they are handed over to the RNLI or the Border Force patrol boats. It's clearly obvious that 90% of those people are men of uncertain origin. We don't know their backgrounds. You wouldn't want that living next door to you. No one wants that living next door to them, because why would you have people, men, with an unquestioned background, who are not used to this country, who are culturally different? Why would you have them here? It's unfair to call those people xenophobic.
Well, Tessa, I'll come to you on this, because when we look at the comparison of those sexual offence claims with that data there, and we talk about Afghanistanis being...
need to interrogate
please do. The statistics do. Those statistics say 1,000% more likely. And then Syrians and Eritreans on there too. And then you see the nationality of people coming over to the United Kingdom. Should British people be worried?
It's interesting, isn't it? I wonder what the polling was about us going to war in Afghanistan. I wonder how they felt about that. We have, of course, delivered a paucity of visas for certain Afghans to be able to come legally when we know their lives have been under threat by the Taliban. Of course, we know about the massive data breach and the problems therein with our own Ministry of Defence. But let's talk more specifically about the scale of the problem. And I commend you. That was a marvellous performance. I always say telly needs performance. It is a performative medium, and I almost wanted to gift you a soapbox, but I thought you were doing a pretty good job.
I've got a nice chair here, actually. I've got a nice chair here, Tessa.
I know, but standing up. It would have been even more
better. There we go.
But I think we have to bear in mind, at the moment globally, we have never witnessed this level of displacement. Because not just of extraordinary levels of war and military violence, but also because of climate change. And what you're having is a combination of factors that is pushing people, propelling people, and you are going to send your lean, mean male to try and clinch to get a foothold into a safer, better country. You're not going to be sending, the fairer sex. We can get into a whole argument about equality and so forth, but actually there is a reason why men historically have been sent to war, etc. So that explains why generally it's men who are the first to arrive. I also think we need to recognise this isn't a uniquely British problem.
That's true.
If you look at the opposite ends of Europe, OK, so Turkey, 430,000 refugees per 1,000 head. Britain, 16 asylum claimants per 1,000 head.
That's true.
We are lucky, so we could reframe this. I'm not belittling the problem. It's not ideal for the people in the boats, for the people in France, for the people in Britain to have this displacement unregulated and anonymous. It's not ideal. But I just think we need proportion. And proportion doesn't work for our kind of politics at the moment, and it doesn't work for your channel.
Can I say, and I've been inside at least 5 or possibly 6 hotels myself, because for most of my life I've been a journalist, but actually I delivered a programme for conversational English for those women who were evacuated from Afghanistan. So I think I can talk from the inside. And it is much more than that, Tessa. It is a catastrophe. Not only are there internecine differences inside the hotel with one Afghan family against another Afghan family, which I've witnessed, I've been threatened several times, and of course they exist outside in the general community, depending on where the hotel is. Now, the Bell Hotel, for example, in Epping, happens to be in the middle of the small town. Now, I can tell you, as a foreign correspondent, when I was in Eastern Europe during the Kosovo crisis, there is a terrible problem when refugees are parachuted into a community and it upsets the ratio of those who actually live there and those who are put in. That's more than just a little problem.
But I
it's a
think
disaster.
relative, I agree, every displaced person is a disaster. It's a personal crisis, and that spills over into the community they arrive in and the community they leave. But relatively, Britain is not impacted by illegal migration in the way that actually most countries, even in Europe,
just briefly on that, Tessa, would you not argue that it's better there in places like Turkey, it's better there in countries nearer to their home? And I know it's not close, I'm not, I understand geography, but at least there's some cultural similarities. There is a vast chasm of culture between us and Afghanistani men. I think when we look at those, I want to go back to those statistics again because they are stark. And I know you'll say that you can dispute the data, but there is clearly at least cultural differences between us and Afghanistani men. And I'll say the same for Eritreans and I'll say the same for Syrians.
It's just so rude, though, isn't it?
I know. Well, facts
we have fought wars in Afghanistan. Are we to negate
facts hurt, though,
our
don't
history? Are we to negate the fact that the reason why so many of these illegal migrants speak English is because we went and spread our Anglo-imperialism all the way across the world so that 1/4 of the planet was invested and invaded by the Brits? I mean, we can't unpick that.
See,
it might affect you to say, oh, it's not good for us.
Can I just say, I find what you're saying, very, very brief, I find what you're saying completely fascinating. I love the intellectual cut and thrust of all of this. All I'm saying is we are beyond that point.
Okay.